Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Just who is going to fight for the seemingly cursed WBA regular title? It's the $1 million question. Or perhaps I should say, the $1 million mess. Jarrell Miller's name has been bandied around to fight for it in November in Atlantic City. Excuse me, I've got a cold. The names Oquendo and Bogdan Dinu have been connected to that fight. Dinu, he's now weighed in on the issue, as has Oquendo's promoter, and more on their video comments shortly. So Miller, who's the one said to be fighting for the belt, he's also been out torching his promoter on social media, and this is with a title fight seemingly around the corner. But is it? Because to make matters more complicated, we've got Manuel Charr, the holder of the regular title. He has not been stripped yet, and that is why Oquendo has not agreed to fight Jarrell Miller. It's a mess, but we're going to work through it, get to the statements, the comments, the video statements, so buckle in. Let's go. And let's anchor the situation back to Manuel Charr. He's the holder of the regular title, won the vacant belt in late 2017 in a fight with Alexander Ustinov. He was then ordered to face Oquendo, who was owed a title shot courtesy of a court order. And that was for a rematch he never received against Ruslan Chagayev back in 2014. And that is the last time that Oquendo fought. The situation, it is what it is. And the WBA must give Oquendo a title shot. So after protracted negotiations, months of delay, the Charr and Oquendo fight, it was set for late September in Cologne, Germany. A couple of weeks out from fight night, which I would note had no undercard confirmed, news breaks that Manuel Charr has seemingly failed a doping test, with 2 steroids allegedly in his system. So the Charr and Oquendo fight, it is then cancelled by Manuel Charr's promoters, who Charr later claims cancelled it before they even spoke to him. Charr, he pleads his innocence online, and he later comes out on social media saying his B sample has tested negative. So the WBA, it has not commented publicly on where the case is at, and whether Charr will be cleared or if he will be stripped. In the meantime, news of Jarrell Miller possibly fighting on November 17th, it began filtering out to the media. And that would be a short turnaround for Miller, who outgunned and overmatched and faded 41-year-old Thomas Adamek on October the 6th. Even with these initial reports, talk of Miller fighting for a WBA title, it was connected and mentioned with him. But fast forward, October 24th, ESPN's Dan Raphael, he tweets that Oquendo turned down $1 million to fight Miller for the regular title on November 17th. He then deletes that tweet and replaces it with one saying the purse for Oquendo was in fact $500,000, not $1 million. So, quoting a source in a subsequent story, Raphael reports that Oquendo did not believe there was enough time before the fight to adequately implement a voluntary anti-doping association testing program. So John Wirt, he represents Oquendo. He's currently in Bulgaria for the Kubrat Pulev and Huey Fury fight, which his and Ivalo Gotsev's company Epic Sports and Entertainment won the rights to promote. And at the final press conference for that fight, Wirt was asked about the Oquendo and Miller situation.
I'm the promoter of Oquendo, and while it is true that Jarrell Miller signed a contract to fight Oquendo, as you may know, Oquendo was slated to fight Manuel Charr on September 29th in Cologne, Germany. And that fight was canceled because Charr tested positive prior to the fight. There is an issue now with sample B that was taken the night of the fight. And so it's my understanding that Mr. Oquendo will not be fighting Jarrell Miller, that we're waiting the results of the sample B testing. It's my understanding that if Bogdan Dinu is successful on Saturday night, he may be the person fighting Jarrell Miller for the WBA title. That's my understanding currently.
Bogdan Dinu, he's an 18-0 prospect who has fought sparingly since 2015, averaging just 2 fights a year. In April 2018, the Romanian signed with Greg Cohen, who is also a co-promoter for Jarrell Miller. So Miller in a Dinu fight, it's essentially an in-house fight, and that should be easy to make, right? And just as it happens, Dinu is also on the Kubrat Pulev and Huey Fury undercard, and he's set to face Tom Little. And he was asked at that final press conference about potentially facing Jarrell Miller.
So, if the plan is this, it's not a problem for me. I'm ready to take any fight in boxing. I have the perfect age, the perfect experience, and I go anywhere to fight. And of course, I would like to fight for big fights.
But for now, Dinu is not treating a Miller fight as being locked in.
So I don't know about another plan. For me, the most important fight is the next one. So the next one is Saturday night. My goal is to make a very good fight Saturday, and then we'll see what is next.
Romanian news outlet National reported that Dinu will fly straight to America, where he will be fighting on November 17th for the heavyweight world title WBA with Jarrell Miller. But ESPN, however, it reports that if Miller agrees to fight Bogdan Dinu, then he will be allowed out of his fight with Tom Little. So, it's a little bit of confusion about what's really going on there. But just hold the thought of a Bogdan Dinu and Jarrell Miller fight for a second. We'll come back to it, and I'll also get to Miller torching his promoter. But I just want to raise the issue again. So Manuel Charr, who claims to have cleared his B sample and hasn't been stripped yet. So Fres Oquendo, as John Wirt stated, is waiting on what's happening with Charr before committing to anything. So is the WBA regular title, is it really up for grabs? Certainly the way it's being positioned in the media, it seems to be. Miller has very publicly stated that that's the belt he wants, and he believes he'll be fighting for it soon. Eddie Hearn has also alluded to Miller fighting for that belt. But if it is up for grabs, how could Dinu just jump the queue, and that queue is Fres Oquendo? Surely the 45-year-old has to be involved, and he has more claim to the title shot than Dinu or in fact Miller. But this whole Charr situation, it does trouble me. It's still lingering in the background. But what if he's cleared? Then what? Is it just going to be a Miller and Dinu fight in November just without the belt? I would contend actually the WBA will be moving very carefully through this whole Charr B-sample situation. Because the last thing that they want is for it to end up in court. Because after all, they could end up owing Charr a title shot just like Oquendo. I wouldn't be surprised if there's more twists and turns to come with this seemingly cursed belt. I would note, prior to ESPN, their news about Oquendo and Dinu, Miller was out on Instagram raging at one of his promoters, saying in a post, "Here's a tip for upcoming fighters. Stay away from broke, desperate promoters who were once fighters. If their career went up in flames, how can they promote you?" But barely an hour or two later, after the Oquendo and Dinu news broke, he amended his post to say, "Here's a tip for upcoming fighters. Trust no one." Pretty interesting stuff, right? I just happened to have seen the earlier version and had tweeted about it on my Boxing Squared Twitter account. And later I tweeted the comparison between the two versions of the Instagram message, asking had he had a bit of a dose of regret about putting out that message, given that there was later the news emerging that he might be fighting for a title. You have to wonder, right? But not only that, but who should roll through on Twitter to like that tweet? None other than Jarrell Miller himself. He also liked a response I'd written to Liam Santabuz, aka Del Boy's Boxing News, a great channel by the way. I'd said Miller had made some veiled comments last week in his hot tub rant about giving his promoter an opportunity/time to do the right thing for him. So it's clear, as Del Boy's Boxing News points out here on screen, all is not well in the Miller camp, and it doesn't sound like it's been well for a little while. So he's promoted by Dimitri Salita and Greg Cohen. So whatever Miller's frustrations are, they are bubbling to the surface now. That much is clear. I just wonder how long has he got left on his current deal with them. And you may have seen he's been ramping up his own promotional vehicle, Big Baby Promotions, more recently. But in terms of the prospect of a Miller and Dinu fight, with or without the regular title on the line, Miller would be the heavy favourite heading into it. If it was without the belt on the line, beating Dinu would solidify Miller near the top of the rankings, because Dinu somehow is ranked 9th in the WBA despite not fighting all year. But again, it's another fight no one really wants to see, that no one was calling for. Dinu is still a lightly regarded prospect in the heavyweight division, and while he's 18-0, he hasn't had a proper step-up fight yet. He's still fighting the Tom Littles of this world. His best wins are over well-travelled journeymen like Marcelo Nascimento, Kurtzin Manswell, and Avery Gibson. His resume, it's wafer thin. It's wafer thin to be getting fights with the likes of Jarrell Miller. So Miller, he would be well and truly accused again of another cherry pick. And he most recently was accused of cherry picking when he took on 41-year-old Thomas Adamek, who was rinsed beyond belief. And Dinu, he does have some talent, for sure. But it's kind of hard to say where is this guy really at, given his inactivity. He's barely fought in the last 3.5 years, and his low level of opponents. And back in April when he signed Dinu, Greg Cohen stated, Bogdan Dinu is the real deal and is ready to take on the top talent in the world. He has the size, power, and boxing skill to win the heavyweight title now. Bold claim indeed, but Miller versus Dinu, it's effectively an in-house fight, easy to make presumably, and Cohen gets to clip the ticket twice. But it certainly will not do anything to enhance Miller's reputation, as he would be heavily favoured to win against Dinu in what many would see as a mismatch. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.